You are now listening to the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. My name is Darryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap of the extra mile for today, March 18th, 2021. Well, the March Madness tournament is upon us once again, and of course, it is time for March Madness in racing as well. Getting ready for Formula One to finally get started, and it looks like, guys, Mercedes, they're totally going to get dominated this time. They're totally not going to, run away with both the Constructors and Drivers' Championship just because they had a bad testing in Bahrain. Totally not going to happen like the last couple of years where Ferrari was faster and then they ended up winning the title anyway. We promise this time. If you can tell, I'm kind of being sarcastic. But to help you get through my sarcasm, of course, is my co-host, Michael Ward, who's with me. Say hello.
Hello, everybody. It's time for Mercedes to, maybe empty up all that sand they've collected in Bahrain. That's kind of what they're doing. They just told the drivers, hey, carry some sand in your pockets.
Definitely looked like there was plenty of sand out there with all of the dust that was out there during the testing session.
Although it made for some beautiful shots.
It really did, but it also made for some suboptimal track conditions. We saw Mercedes struggling a lot more than their rivals, which has got everybody talking. And we're going to get into that in this first segment. Also going to get into NHRA and NASCAR as well. Larry B is going to be joining us here this evening around 8:15, so cannot wait to hear from him. But yeah, we're going to start with Formula One testing, and that ended last week at 3 days of running. Had the cars out on the track for the first time since they broke cover, and the talk of the town has been Mercedes' performance or lack thereof. They completed the least amount of laps during the testing period. Had some issues with reliability on the first day, which cost them a chunk of running on day number one. Then they got the car back out there. It was fastest at times, but also had some stability issues, particularly out of the rear end. Mercedes engineers described the rear end as weak as far as the handling characteristics. At the time, they couldn't come up with a reason as to why, and that has led to a lot of speculations that Mercedes may be on the back foot heading into the season, and their hold on the Constructors and Drivers Championships might go away. But from where I'm sitting, Michael, we've been here before, and we thought that Mercedes was going to struggle, and Mercedes ended up winning the Drivers and Constructors Championship. So try to tell me that somehow this is going to be different than all the other times that we've seen.
I can't really tell you. This has happened every year where we suspect Mercedes might be slower just based on testing times, and then they turn out being a second a lot faster than the entire field. So don't really know, but I'm suspecting, guys, it's testing. This is testing, guys. There is a lot of sandbagging that is happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
So just saying that these teams are going to do well is saying a lot, because a lot of teams sandbag, a lot of teams test, and when you're testing, you put a lot of stuff in the car, and they're going to tell the drivers, hey, don't push too hard because you don't want to break the equipment, and, vice versa.
Yeah, a lot really of this...
hard. Yeah.
A lot of this testing is just to make sure what works and what doesn't on the car. Yes, the timesheets are great, and one team might have a leg up going into next week at Bahrain, or a couple of weeks in Bahrain, and some other teams might struggle in the desert when we start the season. But testing is not what a full season makes. There's going to be a lot of iterations, even between now and Bahrain. When we start the actual season, when we come from the preseason testing, there will be changes on these cars by the time when we come back here to race. So all the difficulties that we saw Mercedes going through, the weakness at the rear end, that lack of grip in the corners, that could be minimized or gone by the time we start actually racing. On the other end, we go in with Red Bull, who was strongest during the testing. They may not look as strong when we come back because some other cars, like Ferrari and Mercedes, may catch up to them. Or even, heck, maybe Aston Martin and McLaren will also be up there, and it'll be a 5-car battle for the pole at Bahrain. We just don't know how things are going to turn out.
Yeah, we don't know, and it's just a lot of this is just, I think, the teams or the media just trying to hype up the season. Like, oh, Mercedes is struggling. Let's try to, let's make it seem like, there's going to be a 5-way battle this season. Or, hey, Ferrari looks strong with Sainz. Or, Alonso's looking pretty equipped. It's a lot to just try to get everybody hyped, try to get everybody interested this season. And, just trying not to have it seem like it's just going to be another Mercedes wins again this season. It's all just to build up hype. And I'm all for building up hype. But let's be real, guys. It's testing. Nobody takes testing seriously.
Yep, it's here to really get the storylines going, get people talking, and them thinking, wow, is Mercedes really in trouble? Mercedes is not in trouble, y'all. If we are 3 rounds into the season and neither Mercedes has stepped onto the podium, then we can talk about whether or not they're in trouble. But until then, the predictions from the last few years still stands. Someone has to go out there and prove they can beat those black Mercedes cars week in and week out. And we know how good Lewis Hamilton is behind the wheel of one of these cars. He came out and was running times that were just back-breaking in qualifying. If the car can't support that, then we can have a conversation. But I'm not going to have that conversation after testing. You never have these type of conversations after preseason tests because you don't know what everybody's program is. You don't know what they're looking at. And no one's really going out full bore like we're going to see them during even the practice sessions during a regular racing weekend. Like, there's a complete different mindset that goes into testing rather than actual racing on a race weekend. Because for testing, you're just doing a whole lot of data gathering for the eggheads back in the factory. None of this counts. You're not going to get any points. You're barely going to get any bragging rights. It's not actually your car, since everyone's sharing one car with someone else. So there's nothing really here to latch on to and say, oh, this driver's going to be good, or this driver's going to be bad, or even this team's going to be good, or this team is going to be bad. However, it does allow us to have some time to, speculate on what we might think is going to happen. And I think that's why this testing is so important. Everyone's paying attention to it because they get to speculate, as you said, Michael. But I don't really put any stock into this. And I'm going to wait until we get some actual racing done before I start deciding who's going to be at the top of the heap and who isn't.
Not a good idea to engage in conversations like this until, maybe the first week of practice. And even then, that's a long shot. Because, again, all the sandbagging and, this is going to be the first time we see these teams in, actual race trim, like ready to go. It's time to go. It's time to give it all we got. This is the first time we're going to see these teams in that light.
So we have about a week until the season gets started. And then after Bahrain, we'll go Italy, Portugal, Spain, Monaco. Those are your first 5 races of the Formula One season. It's going to be difficult to see what's going to happen, especially with the schedule yet again being shaken up due to COVID-19. But we will see what happens starting March 26, 2021, next Friday, we get rolling with practice for the 2021 Formula One season. And we did have some more news out of Formula One. The Jeddah Street Circuit has been released. Michael, I don't know if you saw the track map. It's up on Formula1.com. I am not a fan of this circuit. I'm really not. It doesn't look like it's going to have a lot of passing zones in it.
I am not. I'll be 100% honest with you, Darryl. I am not a fan of any street circuit.
I can understand that. Most of them don't have a lot of passing zones, and most of them don't really go well, other than Azerbaijan, which is the last few years that we've been there. Something chaotic has happened in that race, but
Azerbaijan honestly is like my only exception because of the huge long back straight.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like Monaco, honestly, because of the difficulty.
As someone who plays F1 2020 a lot, I would be much more comfortable if Monaco was no longer on the schedule, but that's just me.
Well, Monaco is that one hard track that you're just like, oh boy.
No, it was Vietnam in this game, actually. Vietnam is not good, and I'm so glad we're not actually racing there. And we probably won't be racing there because the person that helped bring the race to Vietnam got arrested for fraud. So I think that's it for any plans of the Vietnamese Grand Prix. Killed before it even got taken off. So
yeah, I'm with you on there, Darryl. The Vietnamese Grand Prix is not a fun track.
No, it's not. It's the worst track in the game. It was going to be the worst track in F1. And now we've got the Jeddah Street Circuit that might take the place, because there's a lot of flowing corners, but there's no real hard braking zones other than really turn one from looking at this map, where you're going to be able to get to the inside of someone and try to make a pass. And even then, you're going to lose the advantage going into turn number 2 because you're going to lose the inside. So if you can't get the pass done by turn number 1, you're kind of stuck. I don't know where the passing zones are going to come from in this track. And I know a lot of people have been complaining about us going to Saudi Arabia due to the political factors of, well, the country of Saudi Arabia, and I get it, but just talking about the track from a racing aesthetic zone, it's just going to be another one of those disappointing street circuits that we just have now and have to deal with.
Yeah, which I'm not really looking forward to. It's just, guys, I really just don't like street circuits. Watch F1 and watch a street circuit race, and tell me you don't go to sleep. And
I'm
sorry, Darryl. Especially in an era where it's all about clean air and being able to run in dirty air, and you can't overtake in dirty air. It's just not fun to watch. As a spectator. I don't know, maybe as a driver, they love these tracks. But as a spectator and as a guy looking in, I just can't seem to enjoy it.
I can't say I've been the biggest fan of the courses either. It's just there's not a lot of passing on them anyway, and with this era of Formula One, there isn't a lot of passing anyway. But that is a story for another day. But hey, I know there's one way where you can get some passing, and that is in your finances. And folks, the 2020 finances were like a terrible street circuit race in Formula One. But if you want to get your finances rolling like the fast-flowing curves of the Austrian GP, one of my favorite F1 circuits, then you're going to want to give our friends at Legacy Financial a call. Give IO a call at 510-928-2104 to book your appointment. Andrew and Io are two people on a mission to help families build a legacy with their finances. Thank you so much to Legacy Financial for being a sponsor of IE Sports Radio. So we'll be right back. When we come back, we're going to get into the NHRA. Josh Hart pulls off the upset, and I'm going to tell you why wins like this aren't exactly uncommon in NHRA. We'll talk about this on the other side of the break here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey guys, it's Blake Henley, better known as H-Town Blake to some of you. Happy to announce that Bases Loaded is back in full force. We'll be bringing that high heat every Tuesday night here on iSports Radio. So come home, get ready, dig into that batter's box, and see if you can chase that high heat, baby. So we'll be coming to you live with all the stats, all the rundowns, all the division rivalries, and every team that's going to make the playoff push to get to that one and only October and get to the pinnacle of what baseball is, to hoist that Commissioner's Trophy when it's all said and done.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back here next round on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Darryl and Michael are with you. Still waiting for Larry B to join us. He'll be here a little bit later on, and the NHRA season has started once again. They got started with the Gator Nationals this past Sunday. Originally, they were, of course, going to start in Pomona, but due to COVID-19, which continues to change schedules and wreak havoc on the motorsports and the real world, things did not happen that way. In fact, the Winter Nationals have been pushed back once again due to COVID-19 concerns in California, a state that has been hit hard by the virus. But there was big news out of the Top Fuel category when Sean Langdon and Josh Hart lined up in the final. Josh Hart, in his first career NHRA Top Fuel start at the Gator Nationals, had already gone the distance. He pulls in to the right lane, not knowing whether or not he was going to come home with the win. Either way, it had been a terrific afternoon of racing for him. And no matter what happened, he was going to go home a winner. Well, he ends up going home an actual winner, beating Sean Langdon off the tree at a .26 to a .68 reaction times and leading the whole way to take the win of the Amali Motor Oil NHRA Nationals. And folks, it feels like every year, at least 3 to 4 races in the NHRA, depending on the class, we will see a driver from one of the, we'll call them the smaller teams in the NHRA, picking up a win. Yes, the John Forces and the Don Schumacher Racings of the world are strong in the Top Fuel categories, as they often are going to be in professional racing. Those top teams are the top teams for a reason. However, there is a great equalizer in the NHRA. And there's actually a couple that I will say. The first one being, of course, the tree. It doesn't matter how fast your car is. It doesn't matter how many people are working on it. You can have the best tuners in the world working on your car. If you cannot get off that tree in 0.4 of a second, you are not going to win anything. And Josh Hart had a great day at the tree. He beat Clay Millican in round number 1, a .61 to a .88. He beat the number 1 qualifier, Steve Torrence, at a 76 to a 98 on the tree. Justin Ashby jumped far too early in the semifinals. Josh Hart had his second best time of the day as far as reaction times at a 0.54. And then in the final, absolutely obliterates Sean Langdon, 0.026 to a .068. The other great equalizer in the NHRA, of course, is the tuning itself. I've talked about it several times when we've talked about the NHRA. What these tuners do in trying to make these nitromethane powered engines work is incredible, because 1 degree off and you've gone from making a race engine to making a bomb. And I don't say that to be funny. These engines, you've seen the highlights by now. They have a propensity to explode when something doesn't go right. So with one of these teams that supposedly has all the big money and everything behind them, they get up there and the tune is off and they spin the tires or grenade an engine before they get to the start-finish line. One of these small teams can take advantage. We saw with the Scrappers racing team a couple of years ago picking up the win. The Scrappers did not race last season, unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We saw another driver, I believe Blaze Alexander, picked up a win in NHRA Top Fuel competition as well. A small team for him, now racing in the funny car category. And Michael, the NHRA, it's a great series. Oh, Blake Alexander was that name, not Blaze Alexander. I'm sorry. The NHRA is one of these races, one of these series where, while money is important, there is still that great equalizer in determining who is or is not going to win the race.
Oh yeah, definitely. And NHRA is one of those series that's fun to watch because it's one of those series where you can see everything really just coming into play. It's a mixture of basically everything, of engineering talent, tuning talent, and driving talent. And you know, in F1, you know, a driver's talent might overlook the engineer's talent, but in NHRA, everything comes into play, and it's just nice to see that on the track, Darryl.
It is nice to see that, and it's nice to see that everything has to come together and everything has to be perfect. I'm looking at the funny car ladder right now. Alexis DeJoria did not have a good day at the tree. She barely beat Josh Smith after losing at the tree 146 to 110. Josh Smith had issues. Looks like he may have smoked the tires there because he got to the finish line at 5.457 at 136.90 miles per hour. That is not what these top fuel funny cars are capable of doing. And then she goes up against Cruz Pedregon, runs the worst reaction time of the category at a 181 to a .086. Alexis might as well have been sleeping up there at the tree. She goes home in the second round. John Force qualified 5th, ran a 112 reaction time against Paul Lee's 96 to win. Went up against his teammate / other car, Robert Height. Robert trees him 84 to a 108. Reaction times are critical to how a NHRA race is going to turn off, because a lot of stuff is decided at the start. And sometimes you can pull around somebody if you've got a good tune, if you're a little bit late off the tree. But when you're dead late off the tree, you're just dead. And you're going to put that car on the trailer, join everybody in the grandstands, and watch the rest of the evening because you just got beat.
In the esports term, lace those shoes up to loser's rank, boys.
I've actually never heard that.
Oh yeah, it's just a new one. It was just one team that got a Nike shoe deal, and that team lost. So the winning team was just like, lace those shoes up to losers brackets, boys.
Oof, that is not fun. But in the pro stock categories, I'm scrolling down here. Greg Anderson takes the win over Troy Coughlin Jr. Robert Height won in funny car. And in pro stock motorcycle, to get that to load up, let you know who won there. Matt Smith ends up picking up the win over Ryan Oler. Matt ran a 32 to a .14, was able to ride around Oler to hit the finish line beams at a 6.785 at 200.65 miles per hour. And shout out to Maryland native Kelly Klontz, who made it to round number 2, taking out Karen Stouffer to get there. Unfortunately, she red lighted. She was 9/1000ths of a second early, threw away a 686 with the 8. May not have helped as Ryan Oler got to the finish line at 6.818 at a 198.99 miles per hour. But that Kelly Klontz team showing some improvement over the last few years. Can't wait to see how that team runs through the rest of this season. And pro modified, my favorite class, Jose Gonzalez wins that class, 570 at a 254.33. He was slower off the tree at a .69, as Justin Bond leaves faster at a .41, but has issues with his car. Only gets to the finish line at an 8.341 second elapsed time at 112 miles per hour. Obvious issues for his machine. So the NHRA will continue their season. They will go on with the Denso Spark Plugs NHRA 4 White Nationals. Going to be a month before they're back racing again. April 16th through the 18th for the NHRA. They'll be racing at the Strip at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And again, unfortunately, Lucas Oil NHRA Winter Nationals have been further delayed. They're going to be outside of winter at this point by the time they run that race. We'll see when it slots back into the schedule. But Michael, we're going into the season. Gonna be a lot of fun to see what happens with the NHRA, although I don't see if they're going to continue with the playoffs. I'm not sure that's continuing this season or the countdown to 1.
I'm not sure either, Darryl. Be different. I'd be interested in seeing. I'll actually hopefully be able to catch a race. I legit do not know when an NHRA starts.
Well, it started now. Usually they have here on the schedule marked when the countdown to 1 will begin. Usually the Lucas Oil Raceway for the Dodge SRT NHRA US Nationals is the cutoff, but there are no markings. They stopped the countdown to 1 last year due to the pandemic, and they may have just decided that they're not going to run it anymore. Now, they're probably not going to run it this season due to continued issues with COVID-19 protocols, and then maybe it'll come back next season, but I will keep my ears out and I'll also do some more research into it because I didn't hear whether or not they were bringing back the countdown to 1 when they started the schedule, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I want to try and get back out to one of these races, and I will say it. If you've never been to an NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series race, you need to get out to see one. They are so amazing. The Virginia NHRA Nationals are coming up again June 4th through 6th. We'll see how many people will be allowed with the COVID-19 protocols.
That date down.
Yep. Given how it looks like we may be vaccinated by then, could have a chance to go to that race, but we will see. But we will take another break. Hopefully, Larry B will join us. When we come back, we're going to get into NASCAR, get into the race at Phoenix. Martin Truex Jr. picks up a win. And there's a lot of frustrated folks with a certain Mike Wheeler. We'll talk about that on this side of this break here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
everybody? This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you. Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with lists of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your boy Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world, sports themselves, and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for The Defining Moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
To the Soccer Scoreboard Show with your host, Gabriel Montoya. This is the show for soccer, football fans, or whatever you call the beautiful game. Every week, I tackle the latest and greatest news from around the soccer world. From the English Premier League, to the World Cup, to MLS, Liga MX, and more. You can listen to the Soccer Scoreboard Show and our lineup of fantastic guests every Friday at noon here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back here on IE Sports Radio, your feed for all that is sports. You are listening to the Extra Mile. Darryl Kinsey Jr. and Michael Ward with you this evening. Unfortunately, no Larry B. Got some work constraints that are holding him up. We're going to let him take care of those. So, unfortunately, no Larry B this evening. We'll catch up with him, though, later on in the season, of course. We just finished up racing in Phoenix. We're heading on to Atlanta. So first, we're going to talk about that Instacart 500. And Michael, what I would say about the race is it probably wasn't the most exciting race of the year, but it was still pretty good. We saw the PJ1 come into play. It kind of created two grooves, mainly in turns 1 and 2, although we did see the high line in turn 3 and 4 come in near the end of the race, and Martin Truex Jr. ends up picking up the win. This usually isn't a track that's good for him, but ends up picking up the win lead, 64 laps on the day.
The first one of the season for Martin Truex, and I have a very love-hate relationship with this track, Darryl.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those races where it's just like, it's a great track, but for me, it's the racing is kind of lackluster, but I do love the starts of Phoenix because, you have a lot of drivers diving down through the dog leg, trying to get as much as a run as possible. Brad Keselowski actually scared me watching this race because I thought for sure he was going to slam the inside of the wall.
I saw that clip. For reasons we don't have to get into, I wasn't able to watch the start of the race on television, so I missed like the first 20 to 30 laps. I went back and saw that on Twitter, and I have no idea how he did not clobber the wall. He was so close to it. Like, it scared me. And I'm just thinking, if he is an inch off when he dives down onto the apron, he's going to smack that wall, rebound into traffic, and take out half the field. Like, that is a aggressive move for the first lap of the race. Like, I would have imagined if that was 2 to go and Brad was going for the win, I could understand that. But first lap of the race, I don't know if I'm actually making that move.
I don't know. Maybe he was just trying to get some. I don't know. Maybe he was just trying to get some track position, but that was definitely an aggressive move.
I mean, it paid off, though. He did gain some positions there. And, of course, that's why they moved the start-finish line at Phoenix over to the dog leg. They wanted to have these fantastic restarts where people are just diving down onto the flat part of the racetrack. Now, with that wall jutting out there, they might want to back that up a little bit because somebody's going to hit that, and that's just going to end in tears for everybody. But this is what they wanted when they moved the start-finish line over to the dog leg. To be honest, I would rather still have the start-finish line where it used to be on what is now the backstretch, but they decided to make the change for this renovation that they did, and we just kind of have to live with it. I'm not really with the start-finish line being so close to the exit of turn number 4. You can't really get a good drive out and drag someone down to the start-finish line. You really have to get that move done in turn 3 if you're going to beat somebody, but that's where they want to start-finish line. That is where it is, but it was pretty good racing. I know Christopher Lehman, who's in the chat, he does not like the track. In fact, he calls it one of his bottom 5 racetracks. But we come into Phoenix, and to say that the worst race we've had this season was okay, that is a good thing for NASCAR, because we've come in here the previous weeks on 2 or 3 duds in a row. And to be honest, 5 races in, I think we've had a pretty good season so far. Michael, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. It's definitely been a pretty good season. If like you said, if it's an okay race, then yeah, I would be really hopeful for the rest of the season. But
Yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead.
Go ahead. I kind of ran out of things to say.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was just going to say, that means, we're going into Atlanta, another one of the mile and a halves that I spoke about last week that are really, really good and that people really, really like. It's going to be a good race in Atlanta, I believe. And I think we're going to have another one of those good mile and a half races to help build off of the momentum that has been building so far this season with the run of good races we've had, with the Daytona Road Course being chaotic as usual, and then going to Homestead, which shows why it's the best mile and a half on the schedule. Then we go into Las Vegas, which put on a surprisingly good race, and then the Phoenix race, which if your big disparagement can be that it was okay, that's a really good thing going into next week, because that says we've had a better than average season from a racing product, and that's what NASCAR has hoped to see. Now, it hasn't reflected in the ratings yet. We'll see how that goes on for the rest of the season, but I think there's a lot of good things to latch on here. And I think there's also good things to latch on to for 2311 Racing, of course, with Bubba Wallace getting up there on pace, running in the top 10, was 7th at one point before he made a pit stop, fell back to 10th, and then things just fell apart as Mike Wheeler, on a caution, decides he's going to keep Bubba Wallace out. They end up being the only car that didn't pit on the next to last caution of the race. Bubba starts first, and they hit the restart, and they immediately go backwards down the grid. Michael, I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I really thought he should have pitted.
Yeah.
I really think he should have pitted.
And Mike Wheeler did. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say it's really difficult to really make that call because it's just like, up there, sitting up there, that the decision is entirely up to you. You yourself can make or break this race. And I get the stress that it comes with being a crew chief, but you live with the benefits and you live with the consequences. And I think right after he made that call, he just lived with the mistake there. It's kind of one of those deals of being, the strategist as well as the the guy calling the shots.
Yeah, well, Mike Wheeler did go on to Twitter rather, and explain the call, said that when they were behind the guys that didn't stay out, he saw there was really no advantage to not taking tires, which is great, but the entire field pitted. When you see the first 9 cars go in, is there a thought to audible and cut your losses and say, well, we got to get the new tires. Maybe things will work out for us. The thought is, if you don't take the tires, you're going to be back there anyway. But it's much better to pit, have the tires, than have them not work out, rather than to get the tires, have everyone around you, or not take the tires, rather, have everyone around you take tires, and you end up back there anyway.
I think it would be a good idea to. If I was in his situation, I would base my strategy on what especially if there's people are in front of me, I would base my strategy on what's going on in front of me. Like if I see that people are gonna pit, then I probably should go ahead and pit as well, because I don't want to be caught out like how they were caught out in the race. I just think the information that was given to him, he should have taken. But I also understand where he was coming from. It's just one of those things where sometimes you make a good call and sometimes you make a bad call, and that unfortunately was a bad call.
And it's unfortunate because it took away a surefire top 10 from a team that could really use the boost going into this season as a new team. But that 2311 racing team is going to be fast. That was the first time they had a really good car this week. And Bubba Wallace proved that if he has a good car, he can take that thing to the front. I really think he would have got to the top 5 if he had tires there on that final restart, or those next to last restarts. Yep. And Christopher here in the chat says, you don't make friends in that situation either. You can really piss people off when you're the only one who doesn't take new tires. And of course, Bubba ends up spinning the tires at the start, ends up holding up everybody on the inside line, and then he just goes backwards through the field. So it didn't really help their cause, but that 2311 team is going to be fast. And Bubba Wallace is going to show what he can really do behind the wheel of a stock car. As we saw during that race, he got up there at one point past Ryan Blaney and Kevin Harvick on pace once he got into the top 10. Went past William Byron, who's already won a race this season. Bubba Wallace is a good race car driver. He hasn't had a chance to prove it due to the car he's been racing with Richard Petty Motorsports, which hasn't been that fast. And oh, by the way, Eric Jones hasn't done much with that car either. As we're looking at the results, Bubba ends up finishing 16th. Eric Jones came home 20th in the RPM car.
It's just a shame. It's just a shame that you're still going to have people on social media just go and say he's a bad driver when he's clearly done the best of what he's given, is all I'm trying to say.
He's taken the equipment that he's had, and he's run the best he can with it. And that's all you can ask him. And that's all you can ask for him to do, to be honest.
Yep. But you're still going to have these people on social media just say, oh, he's a bad driver because so-and-so. And it's just, they don't look at the material somebody is given more along. They just look at the results.
Yep. It is frustrating.
Definitely frustrating.
Yep. But we'll see how things go in Atlanta. And of course, you wouldn't be remiss if you thought that we were going into the Bristol Dirt Race this week instead of Atlanta, because no one has really talked about this race. All the news that has come out has been because of Bristol Dirt, and everyone is looking forward to Bristol Dirt, which is great. But guys, we've still got to get through Atlanta to actually, get there and have the race. But looking into it for the truck race that's going to happen that weekend, it is really starting to fill up with Cup guys. We've got Kevin Harvick that's going to be in the race. Kyle Larson will be in the race. Bubba Wallace just announced he's also going to run in the Bristol Dirt Race for the Truck Series. I get that the Cup guys desperately need the experience in the dirt race, but it's really turning into literally the Sprint Cup B main, as we used to call the then nationwide, now Xfinity Series, when all of the, at the time, Sprint Cup Series regulars would come down and run the race. Now, does that mean the Cup guys are going to run away with it? Absolutely not. They've never run dirt before, which is why they're all joining into this race. The problem is it could create a situation where there's a Truck Series regular, or maybe even a dirt regular, who's coming down trying to run this race, who suddenly may not be able to get the passing points to get into the actual race compared to someone else.
Sorry, Darryl, what did you say?
I was just talking about how there's going to be a lot of Cup Series guys in the dirt race in Bristol coming up.
I can understand where they're coming from with needing the experience, but it's just like, I don't want to go back to, like you said, the Cup drivers going into nationwide races and just stomping them out. I really don't want to go back to that.
We'll see what happens. It's still going to be a fun race, though. That's going to be next week. But, of course, this week we have Atlanta and Atlanta Motor Speedway. Oh, boy. This is a racetrack that isn't just on a dying track surface. As far as I'm concerned, this is a dead track surface. They have not repaved this track legitimately since they made the reconfiguration from the basically what Homestead looks like, for lack of a better explanation, to the dogleg Charlotte clone that it looks like now. And here's what I will say to other NASCAR fans. Yes, a worn out racing surface does make for better racing. But there is a difference between a surface that has character and a surface that is just dead. Atlanta is firmly in the category of surfaces that are just gone. There is no grip to speak of at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, and you will see it when we get there this weekend. The car is going to be slip sliding around by at least lap 3 to 5. The track surface is so abrasive from decades of weathering that it's just stripping the rubber from the tires, and it's not even getting into the track. It's just ripping the tires and ripping the grip out of the tread of the tire, which the tires aren't actually treaded since they're slicks, but you know what I mean. They're just taking the grip off the tire. And going into the weekend, how you manage your tires is going to be extremely important. because you don't have any grip to speak of. 3 laps in and there's a caution and we are 3 laps in, they're coming to take tires. Heck, if they take tires on that caution and then there is another caution, they are coming to take tires because there is no grip on this speedway. And tires get brutalized at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. It's a lot of fun for us. It's not that fun for the drivers, maybe. Actually, it may be fun for the drivers because tire wear is important. But, man, the tire bill, it's going to be expansive for a lot of teams by the end of this because there's just not enough grip to go around. And I know fans don't want this track to be repaved. Folks, it's going to be out of their hands. Eventually, it's going to have to be repaved. And the reason I bring this up, drainage when it rains is going to start becoming a major issue if they don't do something with this track surface. And already probably is, with just how old and porous the surface has become. They're going to really have to break it to people that we're sorry, this track is going to have to be repaved. And Michael, unfortunately, a lot of folks are not going to be happy with that.
I'm just trying to figure out why don't they want it to be repaved. It seems like there's a lot of benefits to a repaving.
Well, the problem is for the first few years after a repave, especially when you don't run on a track 2 times a year, it becomes single groove because all of the grip is going to be on the lower end of the track just by how things get repaved and how the new surface works. It's going to take a while to work in those second and third grooves once again, which creates racing that, to be honest, isn't that exciting. However, there's another extreme when you come to a racetrack that has no grip to speak of and you cannot find any way to find any speed because 3 to 5 laps after the start of the run, your tires are already dead. So there is a balance that has to be struck. I think Atlanta is on the other side of that balance where it's not a track with character. It's just a dead surface, but that's not up for me to decide. Obviously, the Atlanta Motor Speedway folks will have to decide what they want to do with the surface, but it remains to be seen. But we do have to pick who we think is going to win this week for nearest the win. This week, I desperately needs to score points as right now the current leader in the panic is yourself, Michael, with 3. Collins, Matt White, Taryn, Larry, and Chris all have 1 point. I have nothing, joining Matt Owens, Seth, and Couch Crew Chief without points.
Stranger one, I've literally been winning by not winning.
Well, Taryn is taking Chase Elliott. I'm going to take Kevin Harvick. I think he bounces back this week. Michael, who are you taking?
I'm gonna take Kyle Busch. Mine has been a good track to him. I think he's gonna get it done here.
Chris, I'm not sure if you're still there in the chat, but if you are, if you can type who you think is going to win this week at Atlanta, we can read that off before we get started, or before we leave this evening, not get started. It's almost time to go as white flag is out. But folks, we are nearing the end of the
sponsored by Credit One Bank.
And folks, we are nearing the white flag of the COVID-19 pandemic. Phase 2 and Phase 3 of vaccinations have already been scheduled here in Maryland. Get your vaccination when it is your turn. That is the only way we're going to get back to normalcy here in the racing world, to get fans, or not get fans, but actually watch the races, and we will get back to some normalcy. So make sure that you get your vaccine and make sure to continue to social distance when we continue on. Christopher's actually taking Brad Keselowski, to win this week. So it's Brad Keselowski for Christopher. Taryn, we're going to get that figured out if Matt White is listening. Taryn said that he picked Kyle Larson a couple of weeks ago. So if Matt White can look at that, we'll get the official ruling on that later. But it is time for us to get out of here for this episode of The Extra Mile. Remember, keep it locked on to our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And check out iesportsradio.com for more information on more great IE Sports Radio shows. I am at DK Jr. 12. Michael is at Michael_Ward25 if you want to get at us on Twitter during the week. Check out my show on Tuesdays, 2Y Tuesday, going through the wide world of motorsports. And check out more great content on WBGR Sports on Facebook. Well, that will do it here for The Extra Mile. My name is Darryl Kinsey Jr. for Michael Ward. We will see you guys next week at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.